on. So the Silk Road, the interior.
Uh-huh.
And that recognizing that the British Empire, which we've been talking about with the Elizabeth problem, right? The Elizabeth problem. What shall we call it? The Elizabeth problem, right? Elizabeth and her pirates, Sir Francis Drake and Sir John Hawkins.
Sails, they needed ships. So when we're talking about the Elizabethans and when we're talking about the British Empire, it's sea power. Always. Britannia rules the waves.
Trust you that you've been thinking pirates this whole time, and we have to pull this all together because the pirates are the big theme right now. Maybe I'll have to change this to the title of this. It's Vending Machine People, the Pirates, the pirate episode. Yes. And those of you who are listening with us realize we've been talking about pirates this entire time.
There will be. You also have to spot the pirate.
We have to. They spot the pirates.
Spot the pirate.
So you gotta get a username for goodness sake. It says I'm an Appalachian Buccaneer Sea Dog. Yes. Somehow we Appalachian
mountain people.
We mountain people are sea dogs. How does that happen? Casey says all American rivers lead into the sea. All products made by its people make their way to the sea. And Mel says R. Right? Yeah.
I would give up English. But
I love English. I still love English, even though I now recognize it as the pirates. It's the pirate language. You really should. English is as crazy as it is as a language, precisely because it is the pirates' language. It's a port language. It's the language that you end up speaking because you're blending everything that you're in contact with. Yeah.
It is. It's the global homo language. It's the language of the sea.
It very much is our. So I do say that there is hope outside of this horror story that we're describing right now, but we have to go through the horror first.
We just took them to Mordor.
Yes, here we are. And so no, we haven't gotten to Mordor yet. It may be good or bad as a drink. It may be good or bad as a company, but it's American, or is it?
Rum and Coca-Cola working for the Yankee dollar.
Well, yeah, Coca-Cola. That's the great Atlanta drink, right? That John Smith Pemberton discovered the recipe, very secret recipe for Coca-Cola on May 8th, 1886.
Pirated.
Yeah.
So there's a Pemberton guy.
Yeah.
Who claims to have discovered this recipe. Stole it from a Spanish family company.
This is
Coca-Cola is not even American.
Coca-Cola is not even American. It was the Nuez de Cola Coca, which I've got on screen now. Yes, in the 19th century, recipe patents and stuff are still sort of getting kicked off, and the family members from Spain were talking about their recipe in various trade fairs, and Pemberton apparently heard described in Philadelphia. He goes home and discovers it, markets it, patents it, and then the United States Patent Office won't recognize the Spanish claim on the product.
They were having a good time.
Yes.
They weren't prepping for piracy.
Well, no. And so you could say, American we were founded by pirates. Yeah, that we've been behaving like pirates and trying to control the ports and the movement of goods and claiming property that wasn't necessarily ours to claim.
Didn't even bother trying to come up with a different name.
They just switched
the laziest piracy star was switch it around.
Coca-Cola
and front there, be right.
Change the K to a C, and yeah.
It's like calling everything just New Holland or New Amsterdam. Just stuck. We'll just stick a new at the beginning. Don't bother with the new names. No one will care anyway. Lazy pirates, terrible. Well, this is why I started talking about the race issue. So if you can understand that a really uninventive bastard takes Coca-Cola from the Spanish, brings it over to America, and then this product is suddenly Americanized. That's also happened to people.
Yes.
That's also happened to people under the Anglo-American system. People that were previously a thing are now completely repackaged, and they're utterly deracinated in this pirate system, including the British peoples that were transplanted around the planet in this process. Yes. Honorable navies were indentured into the service on the boat.
Right.
They didn't even want to be on it. This entire system that was set up by the Elizabethans ran on piracy and slavery, from the people that were operating the boats to the people that were forcibly put onto the boats. So about the vending machine people, and I'm talking about race relations in North America, I've taken quite a keen interest in looking at this because by now everyone understands I'm not American, I'm not white, I've had experience in Africa. I spend most of my time around Africans, and especially Coptics. Contrasting all of the relationships between different ethnicities in these different imperial systems has shocked me so much. And like the process of pulling Celts out of their native homelands is exactly the same as pulling Africans out of West Africa. If you look at where Celtic people belong, they're indigenous to the British Isles. They should be counted as indigenous to that kind of like Northern European spot. They're all squished and chased off their ancestral homelands until they basically ended up with the cupboard. The cupboard called Ireland and Scotland and Wales,
right.
You know, but there was an apartheid system that was put in place. They had their language taken away from them, but then they were put on boats. That's how you end up with Jamaica having a ethnic minority of 25% Irish descent. The Jamaican patois is Irish mixed with West African. They've creolized somehow to kind of, create this amazing. What happened in the Caribbean? It literally was Pirates of the Caribbean.
Right.
Why was that? Why were we pushed onto boats? Why were Celtic people sprinkled all over the planet? It was because the Elizabethans wanted people to work in sugar plantations. And in America, you had African slaves, which were, kind of sprinkled around to work on these plantations. But in Australia, we didn't have African slaves. We had Celts. We had the sugar plantations up in Queensland in the northern state. But the process was the same. The empire doesn't care what color you are.
Right.
And so hopefully now everyone can understand what kind of mythology I want to tell about myself, my people, who even are my people. What do I have in common with a pale-skinned person from Oklahoma? I'm not the same race. We've had a completely different experience, but we've had a very similar experience. The empire has shuffled. Right. So that's kind of where, that's where the article is anchored. That's what it means to be a vending machine person. It's a loss of race. It's a loss of nationality. It's a loss of language. It's a loss of culture to be brought completely and absolutely to be absorbed into this maritime sea power. And the thought process of the free market and what that means for culture and relationships and tribes and families and all of it. And it only happened because the Elizabethans got rid of the Catholic faith.
And there we go.
I had to get that in there. I had to get it in there.
Well, but that's where we're heading.
Again, bringing me back to how vending machine people can establish an actual identity. It's going to happen no matter what. It's going to happen. Because in history, people have always established new identities after empires collapse. Obviously, when Rome and its commercial military empire collapsed, new peoples emerged, new languages emerged, new cultures emerged. For a very long time, there was no such thing as the French, right? But now the French exist because Rome collapsed. The Gallic Latins fused, they made France. So this is going to happen. You're going to get ethnogenesis. My problem with the way that people are talking about it at the moment is still using cargo categories that are only applicable under the Elizabethan system to describe people. It's keeping everybody mired in something which doesn't have any relevance anymore. Because if you're going to be embracing a Christian nationalism, That already happened in Egypt a very, very long time ago. It already happened in the Coptic world a very, very long time ago. And it had absolutely nothing to do with skin color. It happened because an empire adopted the faith of the church. And I wanted to get this in just so that it was in our conversation today, Doc. But the New Testament has recorded how this happened even in the Acts of the Apostles. And this is something that I put into the Vending Machine People article as well. If you read in the New Testament, the book of Acts, you will see that Philip is walking and sees a man who's called the Ethiopian Eunuch. He's traveling to Jerusalem for the feast, reading the scriptures. This man is a practicing Hebrew. He's an Israelite who is following the temple religion, and he's come to Jerusalem for the feast. And Philip sees him. Philip, being Greek, sees an Ethiopian and says, "This is one of my people. He's here for the feast." Goes over to him, runs to him, and says, "What are you reading?" And he explains, "I'm reading the scriptures. I'm reading this passage, and I don't really understand it." And so Philip says, now I can tell him Moshiach has arrived. Christ is here. He's come. So he explains to the Ethiopian Hebrew about Christ. Jesus Christos, Jesus Christ. He's come. Our people have found their king. He's, been crucified for us, resurrected, etc. The Ethiopian says, "What do I need to do?" And Philip says, "I will baptize you now, if you want." So he says, "Yeah, great, baptize me." So Philip baptizes the Ethiopian eunuch and then leaves him go on his merry way, and he returns back to what would have been then the Axumite Empire. The ancient Christians had absolutely no color line. This did not factor into the interaction between the Greek Philip and the Ethiopian Hebrew eunuch. The point was the faith has to travel the roads.
Right.
So if you're going to make a nation out of Christendom again, you have to travel the roads and not the skin color. You have to stop thinking in terms of skin color. If it's going to be Christendom again, labels have to be destroyed. They're no good. They're no good to any of us, because the vending machine is all labels. There's all these categories keeping us in the vending machine. As long as you use the categories, you'll stay in the vending machine. I use apostolic language. I don't use vending machine language anymore. Greece always saw itself with Ethiopia. Even, in the myth of the Trojan War, the Greeks asked Finns to come and fight with them in the Trojan War. So Europe and Africa have always been interacting. There is absolutely no such thing as a white nation or white development without Africa. It has never existed. And if it did, the Bible wouldn't have the story of the Ethiopian eunuch being baptized and taking the faith down into Ethiopia. So if you want Christian nationalism, you have to think like a Copt. You can't think like an Elizabethan. It's just not going to work. Whether or not everyone's willing to do it, I don't know. But you're going to seem pretty strange to people. I know I seem very, very strange to everybody. I'm having a good time. Not being white is fun.
Hallelujah.
I like being a wog.